You're listening to the audio version of the popular videocast Cocktails with Cav, found only on X. Follow us here on Spotify and on the X platform at Cav Literature. Oh, how is everybody doing tonight? Coming to you live from New Orleans. We're having such a great time with our second show. This is going to be a blast. One of my favorite genres, romance. I'm George Kavanaugh, host here at Cocktails with Cav. I'm also an audiobook narrator, scriptwriter, screenwriter, and author, and got to do everything we can. So I'm down in the trenches with all our indie artists and creators. So hopefully this show will lend a hand and get everybody out there and let people know all your great work. Tonight is going to be a very, very special guest. We have Sophie Penhaligon, great romance author, and she is actually she has a wonderful site that has all kinds of works on it, great works, and we'll get into talking about them. And I'm sure because of the holiday season, she'll probably want to focus on one of her great works, Christmas with Hamish, and hopefully that will be a focus since we're getting near the holidays. We finally had a really, really chill snap today, finally. I don't know if you want to say chill snap, but it was 80 degrees yesterday, and now I had to put long pants on. But tonight's Cav Cocktail is going to be the tried and true screwdriver instead of my standby Crown and Seven from last night's show. But Sophie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, it is so good to have you on. I tell you, you got a lot of great romance work, and it's one of my favorite genres because I'm a hopeless romantic. That's why I have entertainers as part of the show. I'm hoping some of those bots on X might come on. Maybe I'll get lucky and have a show that'll probably get more ratings than Tucker. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of your background. I know you were born and raised in England, I believe, and now you're living in the beautiful Canadian Rockies.
That's right. I'm not in the Rockies anymore, actually. I was in the Rockies for about 8 years, and then I moved to Vancouver Island. So I'm on the coast now. So I'm as far west as you can get, really, in Canada, in a beautiful part of the world. So it's just lovely here. We have a lot more rain than snow, but we do have some snow around Christmas time usually. So so I grew up in the UK and then moved to Canada with my husband, and we started off in the Rockies, which was a big culture shock to us because came from England where there really isn't very much snow at all to 29 feet of snow a year, basically. So that was a huge
Wow.
that was a huge shock. And we didn't know how to clear the stuff. I mean, we bought an acreage. We bought 5 acres, and we just did not know how we were going to clear this snow. So we tried clearing it with shovels. That's how green we were when we arrived in Canada. And I think the neighbors thought it was just hilarious that we were trying to clear 29 feet of snow with shovels.
Yeah, I bet you they were just standing back with a cocktail of their own, watching.
I know. In the end, we bought a snowblower and a small tractor. So I mean, we were equipped then, but it was a real learning curve for us to come from living in a city in the UK to living in a very rural area in Canada. In a ski resort, it was very, very different. And I mean, I think you think you're going to move to another country, and because you speak the same language, things are going to be very much the same, but they aren't. It's a very, very different culture. So, yeah. So that was fun. So we were there for about 8 years, and then we moved to Vancouver Island, which is just beautiful. And we love living here. It's great. You can sail, you can ski, you can do everything here. So
That's got to be some beautiful country. I know I do a lot of sailing myself down here. It's one of my favorite ways to get away and where it's quiet. I actually do a lot of riding on my sailboat, and something
perfect.
about
Yeah.
God's power without the engine noise,
It's amazing. Just going somewhere and anchoring and just being away from everything is just incredible. So yeah,
It sure
great.
is.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that's and what you said, you thought you moving to a different country where you spoke the same language. At least you didn't move to America. Everybody knows we don't speak English, right? Is that especially here in New Orleans? We
And a lot of words that you would use just don't translate from English to Canadian, from English to American. So things like in the UK, we would say the phone is engaged, which means the line is busy. So telling someone the phone is engaged, they just thought that was hilarious because it sounds like the phone's going to get married. But it just means the line is busy, and there's lots of sayings like that I had to get out of the habit of using because nobody understood me.
Yeah, that's it. Luckily, I had some experience. My first wife was English, and she was God, I miss her. See, I'm a hopeless romantic. No,
Oh,
that was a lot of years ago. I was a young man, but I still couldn't figure out why she just said hospital instead of the hospital, like we say.
yeah, yeah. There's lots of different things. So yeah, just kind of changing the way you speak, I guess, changing some of the words, and yeah. But we've been here a long time now, so I think we're almost Canadian. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's awesome, and the scenery has to be inspiring, I imagine, for some of your writing, I would think.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. So, I mean, here we have the mountains, we have the ocean, we have everything. And Christmas with Hamish, which you did mention, is actually set in Vancouver, which isn't too far away from us here. So, I really enjoyed writing that book because it was almost local. So, yeah, it's Christmas with Hamish. One of my favorite books to write, actually. It was a lot of fun to write. It's fairly short. It's about 50,000 words, and just a fun story. Um, a Christmas romance. I mean, what more can you ask?
That's true. You can't go wrong with a Christmas romance. How did you get involved in? A lot of people don't readily read romance a lot as a genre, and they feel it's a very specific genre for some people. But some of the greatest works were romances, and that were turned into movies and everything else. So what got you into romance writing? Has that always been something you wanted to do, or?
Well, it's funny because I was listening to Sheila last night, and she was talking about the pandemic and getting into writing from the pandemic. And I think I did something very similar. I had just finished a master's degree, and I've been doing a lot of academic reading, and my brain was full. My degree was finished. I wasn't going to do any more academic reading. So the COVID hit and everything just shut down. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. So I thought I'm going to get some books from the library, from some ebooks. So I picked up a couple of romance books. I didn't really want anything too heavy. I wanted something maybe lighthearted, something I could read quickly. So I picked up a few romance books. And at that time, and I don't know if anybody remembers this, but it was even hard to get books from the library because everybody was reading.
Right.
And so when there's so many books out, there's only so many ebook copies. And I would have to wait for books that I wanted to read. So I thought, you know what? I could write a book like this. And that kind of triggered me off to start writing. So I read a lot and I wrote a lot. And I brought my first two books out really fast. So they were published, I think the first one was published July 2020, and the second one was published August 2020. So I had a really prolific period of writing, of intensive writing. So since I released my first book in 2020, I've released 8 books since then.
Oh, that's
Uh,
amazing. Yeah, and I tell you, when you can actually, I, I'm impressed by your focus. I know the pandemic had a lot of us concentrating hard on doing things we like to do or wanted to do because we had that time, and it was an amazing time. And I'm still utterly convinced a large part of the population lost their minds during the pandemic. Prove me wrong. I need to hang a sign out on a table at a university, but
and I
it's
managed to get myself hooked up with a really good editor. Um, and she was really encouraging. And I mean, a lot of people, when they start writing, they don't really know how to go about it. And I decided quite early on that I wanted to be independent. I didn't want to be attached to a publisher or try and put my work out there for an agent because I knew how unlikely that was going to be. I decided to self publish. So I got myself hooked up with an editor who was really helpful and helped me with developmental editing and line editing and really helped me through the process. And then I kind of dived in and learned all about how to self publish a book. And there's a lot involved. I mean, you can do it, I think, very quickly and very easily. But I wanted to make sure that I did it properly. So I got professional covers done for my books. And I got some professional editing done. And I looked at how I could market my books. I did a lot of Facebook marketing. I went on Instagram and, made lots of links there. Um, so it was a real huge learning curve for me. Meeting people, finding out how to do stuff, finding out how to put my books out on Amazon. When I started publishing, I went wide. So I didn't just put my stuff with Amazon, I put it with everybody. And since then, I've come back and I just do with Amazon now. I do Kindle Unlimited. So I wasn't getting an awful lot from the other distributors, so Amazon seemed to be the way to go for me, and it seems to have been quite successful.
right.
Um,
And
yes.
marketing. We talked a little about it on last night's show. Just how difficult and well, how labor intensive it is that a lot of people don't understand for indie authors and creators, and it's an important element. But I think it pours your heart and soul into the work even more. Yeah,
It's I mean, it's great because you have control over your book. You have the say over what's going in, what your cover is going to look like. Um, Whereas if you have it with a publisher, they might change some things. They might want a different cover. They might want it done a different way. Um, I quite like it. It is quite onerous, especially when, I mean, most of us as writers are working a full time gig as well. Because unless you are one of the biggies like Colleen Hoover or somebody like that, you have to have another form of income. So a lot of us are trying to do it as a part-time thing, and
right,
it does
sure.
it does take a lot of work, especially when you're trying to release a book. So I mean, it's been a while since I released one. It's probably been about a year since I released my 8th book, and I've been working on my ninth. But I've been playing around with another pen name and doing a little bit of erotica on Medium, which is really interesting. Just keeps my hand in with writing short pieces. um yeah, so it's really interesting. So I need to finish this 9th book because it's one of a series. Actually, it's the fourth of a series that I wrote, a small town romance series. But I've really been interested in exploring other genres as well. And I've on Twitter I've met some fantastic people.
Oh,
And
I know. I've just made so many great friends, and not only in the community, but readers and people who are interested in maybe they have something to say too. And it is self publishing's opened up a lot for the little guy. But like we said, the work involved on the back end is equally important, and hopefully people get to the point where they learn what they need to learn, and just because there is a lot of great work out there that just goes undiscovered. And we talked a little about it last night. Just legacy publishers being gatekeepers, or fighting for an agent and rejects, and
Mm.
yeah, that is the one benefit of self-publishing. It's almost free marketish.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I didn't, I think I sent out one letter to an agent or a publisher and didn't hear anything back. And I was quite impatient to get my stuff out there, I think. And I didn't want to go that route at all. It just didn't interest me. And I thought, well, why would I do this? And not only that, you lose a portion of your sales to the publisher or the agent or whoever you use. Um, Whereas if you're self-publishing, then it comes back to you. Um, I guess what you lose out on is the marketing power of a big publisher,
Right. And
which
I
you
think
don't
that
have
is
here.
what it is. And like I said, I do believe though that it just people get more dedicated to their own work. It almost weeds out some of the ridiculousness that we worry about in the business.
Yeah, it's
But
certainly not for the faint-hearted. I mean, you have to be really committed to doing it for sure. So
right. That's why we drink. What's your
that's
what's your cocktail tonight, Sophie?
I Southern Comfort is my drink of choice, actually.
Very nice. It's like having Janis Joplin on the show. I'm having a
On
great
on
time.
ice, just ice. That's all I have. So
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I tell you, why don't you? And I know you spoke of it being the holidays is going to be a wonderful romance. Why don't you tell us a little about your book? I'll go ahead and pull it up on its. Should be able to pull it up,
yeah, I
and
see the yeah. So Christmas with Hamish. This The cover of this book is slightly different than all my other covers, and people might notice that. And I actually was inspired by the cover. So I was looking at some of these. You get these generic covers that you can buy. You don't have to have one specifically made for you. And I was looking through some generic covers, and I saw this, and I thought, wow, that's really neat. Look at that. Look at the dog. Um, I want the cover. But I didn't have a story at the time.
right.
I knew I wanted the cover and I wanted to use it for a book, but I didn't know what. And I thought, well, this book is going to be about the dog. I mean, the dog's front and center there. So Hamish is actually the dog. Christmas with Hamish is about the dog. And it's about Verity, who lives in Toronto. And she flies over for her sister's wedding, her younger sister's wedding. And there's a lot of animosity between her and her sister. They don't get on, for reasons that come out in the book later. Um, and the dog Hamish belongs to her sister, and she's supposed to be going on her honeymoon, but there's a last minute disaster, and the woman who is supposed to be looking after Hamish is not able to look after him. So Verity has to step in and look after Hamish for the 2 weeks that her sister's on a honeymoon. And she meets her sexy new neighbor, who lives next door, and she is very jaded with Christmas. She doesn't like the Christmas season because of things that happened within her family, and he is determined to show her the joy of Christmas, and that's kind of what it's about, really. Over the 2 weeks that they're together, they do lots of things together, and he also has a dog called Chunk, who's a bit of an overweight bulldog, and so what people love about the book is, first of all, the romance, obviously, but secondly, they love the inclusion of the dogs because everybody loves dogs. So people,
Did you get lucky too?
write to me and say, "Oh, I love the dogs." Yeah. So
Yeah, did
yeah,
lucky?
Chunk did not get lucky. No,
Ah,
and
well, what kind of
well,
romance is this? I don't.
Maybe that's for another book, hey? Maybe that's
right. The sequel. We'll all wait for the sequel. But that sounds like an interesting read. And I tell you, holiday romances always are close to my heart. I know I did some research for this show. I binge watched the Hallmark Channel a little bit. And so I either want to be a prince or a high-powered New York businessman that goes to a small town this week.
And wears flannel. Yeah, you have to wear flannel when you get there, hey?
Absolutely.
Have a change of heart. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not quite Hallmark, but you know what? It's almost Hallmark, but it's a bit too gritty to be Hallmark, I have to say, because there are some issues in there that they probably would not cover in a Hallmark movie, but it's almost Hallmark. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. But no, and I tell you, it's it sounds like an interesting read. And everybody in the audience, look, please definitely check out the book. Got it up on the screen for you. You can just go straight to the QR code and it'll take you straight to the site. You can go ahead and order Sophie's book for the holiday in time for the holiday season. That's for sure. But I tell you, I'm working on my new project, 50 Shades of Gray Hair. I'll probably fall into the erotica category. Oh, geez. Well, is there any other any of your other works? What's your newest work you've been working on now?
Well, I've been working on my small town romance series. So the first one was called Ugly Truth. And then Vets with Benefits, and the third one was called Sweet Deception. So there's a series of 3, and I'm just writing the 4th one, which is called Waiting for Miss Right. And it kind of ties up all the characters. So it's a group of young people that live in a small town in Colorado, and they're mostly professionals, and how they all hook up and how they're all together and the friendships that kind of evolve from that. So it's a lot of fun. I try and write a little bit of comedy within my books because I find it lightens kind of the theme a little bit, because sometimes I try and take on not just romantic themes, but themes such as eating disorders, abusive families, that kind of things. And I think you sometimes need to balance that with a little bit of comedy. So there is some romantic comedy in there as well.
That's true. I mean, romances throughout the history of literature, like I said, some of the great works were romance novels that tackled big issues. So, it's definitely a genre worth looking into for the audience if you've never experienced really good romance writing like Sophie does. It's definitely something to check into. And you said Ugly Truths, I believe you said, is part of the series.
That was the first one. Yeah, that's right. So that's covered for Ugly Truths. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the audience knows where to start. Get started on your series. So that'll be great.
And it's great if you like small town romances. So it has that small town feel about it. So a lot of people like that genre, the small town romance series.
Yeah, sure. And well, it does. And I think everybody can relate to it, it's for the most part. And there's always, for me anyway, romance is everybody's looking for their Lara, like in Dr. Zhivago. That's for sure. But hopefully can stay together instead of on and off like in the movie. But, oh, golly, Sophie. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody, please check out Sophie's work. SophiePenhaligon.com. First in her series, Ugly Truths. And of course, you got this great holiday Christmas with Hamish novel that's out for the holidays. It'd be great for you to do. And please consider supporting the show. If you like us helping get indie authors and entertainers and artists out there. It's a tough world we're in out there, competitive, and it's any little bit helps, but I love talking and getting to know the authors. So Sophie, I really appreciate it. If you want to support the show, look, $2 coffee we'd really appreciate you keep the work going, and also I have my own work on my shop. If you're a U.S. Visitor on the stream, of course, I think hopefully X will fix it so other countries can get the shop on the profiles. But I have some of my own work, my short stories on Barnes and Nobles, my series, and if you do support the show, I'll throw in a free copy of the first in the short story series for you. I'll DM you the promo code. I'd appreciate that too. But we just, I really, really appreciate you coming on, Sophie. Thanks so much for talking about your work and telling us a little bit about yourself, and anything else you want to plug before we go. We're ready.
No, I think that's good. Christmas with Hamish, read it. It was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And please, by all means, follow Sophie on X. She's a wonderful X participant. I tell you, that's how I met her. Wonderful engagement. Great witty person, and also fairly serious sometimes, but she great to talk to on X. So please go follow her. Your screen name, I believe, is Sophie Pen.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it, Sophie Pen, and so please go over there, give her a follow. Heck, even hit her notification bell too. That way you never miss something when her new series books come out. I know I'll be looking forward to them as well. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Angry Truths. That's for sure. The Ugly Truths. That's right. Ugly Truths.
Ugly Truths. Yeah.
I'll definitely start him with that one. And please, ladies and gentlemen, give me a follow on X as well. Hit that notification bell for you never miss a show. We'll have another great show for you tomorrow night with sci-fi author Grimm. And that should be interesting because he's a shady figure, I think. But Sophie, thanks again so much. Coming to you live from New Orleans and Vancouver Island, way as far west as you can get in Canada. Sophie, it was lovely to talk to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
Thank you so much. It was great fun. Thank you.
All right. So see you later now.
Bye.